Hi. Before I begin, I am reading off the notes of my partner's confession, or I don't really know if that's the right word, but their truth about what happened to them in their last relationship. And it's also explanation to my last TikTok I posted. So if you're confused, that's the backstory. And so here is his truth. We met on Tinder, and she invited me to her house, and I was in a mentally vulnerable place at the time, having just moved back to Washington to go to Cornell University in Seattle and just going through a breakup. When I went to her house, and yes, we did consensually hook up that time. After that, we continued to see each other. However, from the start, she would make comments making fun of me for my autism, saying things like, "You're really easy to manipulate," as a joke. The first time she assaulted me was in my dorm room at Cornish. I was cooking food in my rice cooker and she pulled my pants down and began performing oral, and I told her to stop, and she did, but she had already done it for a certain amount of time, and I said it was okay and tried not to let it bother me, but it always did. Part of me felt like if I then just always consented, then it was somehow giving my power back. She would often make comments about hating men for being chasers, God, I can't speak, yet also targeting trans men at the same time. She always seemed to have her own fetish for trans men, being the primary people she would hook up with. So she treated me poorly. She would also treat me like I was special and put me on a pedestal. It was a constant back and forth from feeling comforted and loved and then trapped, hated, hopeless, and scared, sad, hurt, and just wanted to feel loved. And I thought maybe if I had a relationship with her, things would be better. At times, especially in front of others, everything was fine, but other times I was really suffering mentally, and over a few months, I spiraled into a state of psychosis. There was a week in our relationship that we had broke up, and in that week, she had had sex with other people. She did not tell me that shortly after that, or she did not tell me that. And shortly after that, I began having symptoms of gonorrhea, and at the urgent care clinic, she then revealed she did actually have sex with other people, only pressured by the doctor, by the way. I ended up being okay uh, though she did expose me to that risk. There was also a time I spent living with her for a bit, but there had because I had gotten kicked out and had nowhere to go. During that time, she would leave me alone almost every night going to parties because I wasn't invited to them for some odd reason, and wasn't coming back until 5 or 6 a.m. often. At some point during the summer, I had a mental break and drove to a location I planned on ending my life at. I think Poppy was asking me about what I was doing, and I told her, and then she started complaining that she wasn't going to be able to pay her rent because she quit her job recently because she was going to move to New Mexico with me. But I didn't tell her to quit her job, and we weren't planning to move for another month anyway, and she had done nothing to prepare for it. But still, I felt incredibly guilty for some reason, and when she said that, I not in a clear state of mind, my by the way, sent her 2K, oh my God, $2,000, half the money I had left from college savings, and the other half I had planned to rehome my animals before I died. I ended up not going through with it and then asked for the money back, but she never sent that money back. She never tried, even to this day. She knew I was at my mental lowest and still decided to choose herself. The next day after that, after all of this, I drove to New Mexico, unable to sleep, feeling sick, and just wanting to escape. Once I got to New Mexico, though, I felt isolated. Poppy was the only person that stayed in constant contact. So while vulnerable, I allowed her back in. She became the only person I felt close to in a way. Because during this time, they didn't have friends in New Mexico. They didn't meet anyone, so it was really lonely. Athena! Sorry, my cat almost. Anyway, um, during all of this, mind you, she had moved on and started seeing other people, and I only found out through checking her Instagram story, which I then confronted her for, and she made it seem like we weren't romantically involved. But then at the same time, when they went to go on a date with a man, she freaked out. She told me if I dated him, she'd never talk to me again, and tried to say me seeing a cis man was against her boundaries. She then convinced me to stop talking to him, and we then agreed that we would be in a long distance relationship and she would plan on eventually moving in with me in New Mexico. She later told me that she thought it was an open relationship the whole time. So she has sex with other people, but it's okay. But it's okay. But she would still lie about the details of the other people she was seeing. Why I thought she was still in a relationship with me and planned on moving to New Mexico. She then tells me she doesn't want to move actually. But then I decided I wanted to go back to art school and go back to Washington. And then I thought we were going to be together. But once I got there, she broke up with me. But she didn't leave me either. She kept seeing me constantly, showing up at uncomfortable hours of the night sometimes, yet would also be severely upset if I wasn't the happiest to see her. And was implying she wanted a relationship, but we couldn't. And the reason, Athena, if you do not stop, I swear to God, I'm putting you in your cage, bitch. Sorry, my cat is really testing my soul. Anyway. But once I got there, she broke up with me. She kept, she didn't leave me though. She kept seeing me constantly, showing up at uncomfortable hours of the night sometimes. Yet was be upset if I wasn't the happiest to see her, and was implying that she wanted a relationship, but we couldn't. And the reason was because I was too crazy, because I was depressed and suicidal. She continued seeing other people, but if I asked her about it, she would never give me a clear answer on it. And when, like, on if or when she was, and while continuing to see me for unprotected sex. It got to a point where I felt like I was just her favorite toy of the week. Meanwhile, she claimed we were in love. I tried leaving her. I tried saying I didn't want to see her anymore, but she'd always plead relentlessly, and I'd go back to seeing her. But eventually, I decided I needed to get out, and I thought a way out would to be meet someone else. So I tried and quickly met the person I'm with now, who instantly I felt more safe with and excited to continue a relationship with. And once I met someone who treated me with understanding and kindness, I knew I had to get out of the situation I was in. I told Poppy I had gone on a date with someone else, and I told her I wasn't going to continue to see her. I told her how our relationship was hurting me and it was toxic and bad, and I tried blocking her, but she would continue to send me text after text. If I blocked the number, a different number would pop up, and she would call me over and over as well. She showed up in Tacoma to see when I told her no. I told her again I wanted things to end. She continued to harass me and then convinced me to meet her in a park in Seattle so I could tell her again I wanted to leave, but she would convince me to stay the night. I tried getting away, saying I need to get my car. It's at the light rail station, but she would come with me to get my car. She said one more night and I would leave you alone. I was so tired and I just wanted it to end. That it would end or I thought I would end it. Before we went to sleep, she had sex with me. I didn't say yes, but I didn't try to stop. I just cried. The next morning I left. She tried to ask me to stay longer and smoke, but I knew I needed to get out, and I did. She continued harassing me with phone calls and texts after, and I attempted to submit a restraining order, but after the court said I didn't have enough information because I didn't include specific dates of events, and someone who I thought was my friend said I shouldn't because of police brutality, so I decided not to contest, and I hoped to move on, and maybe Poppy would face some kind of justice, but she didn't. She got away with it, and I know I'm not gonna be her last victim. I don't even think I was her first. Her obsession with her ex was also a trans man, and how she said towards the end of the relationship he didn't like touching her, or he didn't like her touching him randomly, or at any form of contact whatsoever. And then she broke up with him because he was depressed. So that is the story. That is the story of my partner. I almost said my ex. That's not my fucking ex. Jesus fucking Christ. But that's the story of my man and their ex and all their toxic BS. So, to Poppy, fuck you. You're fucking weird. And that's all I have to fucking say to you, bitch. Trust that.